And here we go on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, reacting to the first round of the NFL draft, which the Browns, as we expected, did not participate in. So let's get to it here. Let's just look ahead to Friday, where the Browns are expected to go on the clock at number 44. And I want to know from each of you, Doug, Ashley, Mary Kay, and Scott, what you think the Browns should do at 44. So Mary Kay, we'll start with you. What do the Browns need to do at number 44?
Well, what they should do, what they need to do, it all depends to them on who the best available player is. I really think they will do that, even though I would tend towards a receiver with the number 44 pick. I still think there are some good ones and will be some good ones left. There are plenty of good defensive players left as well. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that. I would probably end up drafting Cincinnati's Alec Pierce. He would be high on my list. He's somebody that I've had my eye on for a while there. If he's still there at number 44, he's definitely somebody that I would take a strong look at there. And then from a defensive standpoint, if Arnold Ebiketie is somebody that I've liked, and I think D'Angelo Malone is still out there, and Logan Hall. So these are some of the guys that that we've mentioned a lot that I think that they'll have their eye on too.
Doug, what about you?
Well, 6 receivers went in the first 18 picks, and it was like, oh, the receivers are hopping, and then no other receivers went. So that was good news for the Browns, I thought. I think they have to look at who their next tier of receivers are and be ready to maybe jump if the second wave comes, because there was a wave. Once you go 8, 10, 11, 12, 16, 18 for the receiver spot. So if you look at George Pickens, Alec Pierce, John Mechie, Sky Moore, Christian Watson, maybe those are the next 5 guys. I don't know. Maybe they don't like all 5, but I'd be ready. It's what we talked about a lot in the war room. Like, I'd be ready to go if it's like, we like 3 and 2 just went in the first 6 picks of the second round. So I do agree with Mary Kay that the edges got pushed down a little bit. So there does seem to be some value still there, but I know best player available. Just the way things have fallen, it would surprise me if it's not edge or receiver, because it does feel the one weird thing that's happened is that only one quarterback went in the first round, but the Browns don't need a quarterback anymore.
Scott, what are you doing tomorrow? Or I guess today when people are listening to this.
Yeah. What time is it? I agree with a lot of what Doug said there. I think it does bode well for the Browns that run on wide receivers abruptly stopped at 18. So there are a lot of guys that we've talked about that came up during our mock draft that could be a possibility there, but there's still 11 picks ahead of them, and it could get interesting, and they might be forced into a situation like we were, where you're seriously thinking about trading up to get a guy if you really like him. But I think over the past couple of days, I might have talked myself into the fact that they don't necessarily need a receiver, because Deshaun Watson was so good in 2020 with a wide receiver group that was just a lot of meh. There really wasn't much there to speak of, and he's the kind of quarterback that makes those players better. So, I'm looking at 44, and they could go any direction. I think they're in a really good position of being able to draft for depth here, because they've done such a good job building the last couple of years. Obviously, they addressed quarterback this offseason. So, if they go for receiver, if they go for edge, whoever ends up higher on their board, great. But I don't look at this pick as they got to do this or they got to do that, because I think they're in a really good place with their roster.
Ashley?
Yeah, I think my thinking has gotten less. They need to take a wide receiver with this pick, and they need to find the guy they like, and they're probably going to have to trade up for him. Now, a guy that I like in George Pickens is still out there, and I might seriously consider trading up to somewhere in the 30s so that you're ahead of the Bears or whatever if they really like him to get him. But like Doug said, considering how these edges fell, like I don't think anybody expected Jermaine Johnson to go as late as he did, right? Like there's still a lot of these really strong defensive players on the board. And when Andrew Berry talks about taking the best player available, that's when we might see that come into play. So I think I'm definitely like a little more open to this idea now, and the wheels are turning a little bit more.
You guys are killing me. You're killing me. I don't know if you're tired. A lot of hemming and hawing and whatever Andrew Berry wants to do, we're fine with it. Go, Andrew. You're the best GM.
Well, here's the thing. Like,
no, you
Hey,
go get a receiver.
I said you still should trade. If they really like George Pickens, they need to go up and get him, I think. He's not sticking around to 44. I don't think even with these reports, the report in The Athletic about his maturity or whatever it said, even with that out there, I don't think he's sticking around till 44.
When we're sitting there in the press box in November and Donovan Peoples-Jones can't get open downfield and Anthony Schwartz dropped his 5th pass of the season and David Njoku is still kind of David Njoku, and I'm going to replay everything that we just said on this podcast. Just go get a receiver.
It's okay because Deshaun Watson just scrambled for 13 yards on a first down.
Dan,
fair enough.
Like, you're turning into
go get a receiver. Because I think the reason there was this run on receivers, a historic run, and we talked about it, you're going to hear it in the second half of this pod, is receivers cost $30 million now. A great receiver costs $25 or $30 million. I promise you 2 years from now, you're going to be paying Amari Cooper $25 or $30 million. Go get a receiver. You can figure out edge rusher. Jadeveon Clowney can come back. There's veterans out there. You sign Chase Winovich. Trade up and get Sky Moore if you have to. Now, maybe you like Alec Pierce at number 78. Okay. Maybe there's a guy that you feel like you can get at 78, and that's fine. If they believe that. I think you've got to be aggressive to get the receiver you want. I think if you come out of here with like a defensive tackle, as much as I kind of like some of these guys, I don't know, man. I want a playmaker. I could live with an edge, but I want a receiver.